talks, really, really interesting. The first is that when Ross talked about, and Ross and Patrick talked about the need for more ontologies and more background knowledge. I think it's very important. Ross, for example, used qualitative reasoning in some of his earlier work, which is kind of a nice interface level to more precise ordinary differential equations, and allows everyday causal knowledge to be communicated. And there's a part of the AI roadmap for the United States that's basically proposing to build an open knowledge network. And this is the kind of background knowledge that, you know, companies aren't going to do, right? They're just not going to do it. And so really what you want is a research community, perhaps with crowd workers, that are fleshing out the kind of background knowledge that would then help fuel all the citizen science efforts. And also other sorts of scientific research, because whenever you're formulating a problem, you're going from everyday terms, which the system also needs to understand, to the technical terms. So unless humans are going to do all the model formulation forevermore, and that doesn't scale, then to really have more effective, robust scientists, they're going to have to also have more common sense. The second point I wanted to make was that, you know, if you look at all the citizen science projects, they all have the following property. Their interfaces are carefully designed by the people who are designing the crowd flow process. And so the bandwidth between the people who are helping out and the machines is very small. It's so two modalities that I think are going to be interesting in the future is sketching, because sketch understanding is now in a pretty good place in terms of being able to visually analyze people's hand-drawn sketches, and also natural language. And again, today's natural language dialogue is too brittle and doesn't understand things deeply. I think we're going to hear a great talk about that in the next session, based on the briefing materials that they provided. I think it's going to be really cool.
Thank you very much, Ken. Anyone has any reaction to that?
Well, I agree about the power of qualitative modeling. You know, Ken is a founder of that field, and it's relatively underexploited at the moment. I think, you know, it's everyone's rushing towards deep learning models, and slowly the tide is turning, and other ideas from the past of AI are coming to the fore again, I think.
Thanks, Ross. Luisa, I wonder if you wanted to say something, because there's some noise coming from your microphone. So if not, it will be great if you can mute yourself. Okay, who else wants to add anything else to the discussion?
Yeah, this is Utpal. I think I echo the comments from Ken, and I know also there is a chat over here from the Carnegie Endowment. So I echo the comments that some of these work, which will not be done by private corporations, because they don't see the immediate benefit out of it, right? They don't see the immediate profitability or ways to make money. I think the governments, endowment funds, you know, a lot of the foundations will have to take over a lot of those leadership roles to making those happen, because things that are not clearly visible, even from a profitability standpoint today, will become issues of tomorrow, right? I mean, let's just think about it. Climate science wasn't a big issue 30, 40 years ago. Talk about it today. All the companies are busy getting involved into it. Look at how the NASDAQ's functioning with a lot of those climate sustainability companies. So just because it's not in use, fashionable, relevant today, doesn't mean it wouldn't be the case 25 years from now. So I echo the comments that Ken and others are making here.
Thank you, Utpal. And Alistair is also suggesting if Ken could perhaps elaborate a little bit and expand on the work that companies wouldn't like to do, and what kind of incentives we can create for academics to undertake these kind of tasks?
Sure. So if you look at Google's knowledge graph, it's all about cultural products because they're trying to sell advertisements. Okay. If you look at Amazon, they've got two. They've got a product graph and they've got a graph of sort of general background knowledge, but more like encyclopedia factoid stuff that they got from actually a UK company called True Knowledge. What you don't have is everyday things like, can you pull with a string? Yes. Can you push with it? No. Okay. And today, there are attempts at making common sense knowledge bases. The biggest is Psych, but they're very proprietary and you can't get your hands on it. And the open ones are mixed quality. So no company is going to say, well, okay, let me show you a practical reason why you want these. So if you look at IBM's Watson in medicine, one problem they had was you have to have a humongous number of question-answer pairs, right? Lots and lots of training data. If the system already knew things about the everyday world, and in medicine, you're constantly talking to patients and figuring out how the things in their life are affecting their physiology, which means you have to understand something about the everyday world, right? So medical research is going to have this. Now, if I've got some particular area in biology, maybe you can just basically continue to run open loop without that kind of knowledge. But if you're saying, well, what organism should I be looking at? Then you're going to have to often think in terms of the everyday world, not just the scientific world. So there's two levels of knowledge, right? There's your professional knowledge, and even some of that is qualitative. And then there's the everyday knowledge, and then there's model formulation abilities that help you get from one to the other. And right now, to the extent we're doing anything, we're doing mostly this. Not so much of this and very little of that because there's not much to hook up to. That in a nutshell. Incentives for academics, nobody gets glory out of data, right? Nobody gets glory out of knowledge, which is really sad. I mean, basically we need to be able to have ways to publish knowledge, ways for people to get academic credit for knowledge. It doesn't have to be a traditional publication mode, but just, hey, here's a microtheory that I generated for this aspect of biology, and it turns out a lot of people use it. And so a citation model might actually be a great incentive for academics.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. I think Saso wants to add something.
Hi, this is
Okay.
Sasha Jairovsky from Ljubljana. What I would like to emphasize is that besides data, it is very, very much worth sharing other products of the scientific process. And this might include also models. And there is more and more databases of models appearing out there, especially in the area of computational biology. There's, for example, biomodels.net. And it necessitates the work on ontologies that would allow for better connection between the data and the knowledge. Thank you.
Sure, Ross?
Yes, so Ken, so Psych took there was a decade to build and a lot of money. It would seem stupid to redo all that. Is there some way, I don't know, for someone just to buy it and put it in the public domain, you know, like the EU or the American government or something?
Well, there's two answers to that. One is, yeah, I mean, you could probably buy Doug Run It Out for enough money. Or, you know, as he mellows with age, who knows, maybe he'll start. But one thing, that's one answer. The other answer is, they actually did something a while back called OpenPsych. And OpenPsych had multiple versions, some better than others. But what we've done is we've actually taken the best out of OpenPsych. We've added our own representations for qualitative reason. We've added linguistics knowledge from FrameNet and other language resources. built our own open license lexicon for English. And this is all available on our website through a Creative Commons attribution license. Okay, so we're trying really hard to get that stuff out there. Now, what's missing is a lot of the inferential knowledge that's in Psych proper. But that's something now I think that we want to basically get the community to build out, to have systems learned by reading. We just had a paper in the Automatic Knowledge-Based Construction Conference on this, and basically build it out again in an open license way. So even if they don't actually make what all the stuff they have publicly available anytime soon, we have benefited as a community from what they've done through their open site version.
Thanks, Ken. And actually, this connects also back to citizen science, because I think it has been indirectly responsible and perhaps successful at extracting some of the databases in the in companies like Kaggle, for example, where companies actually released a little bit of their data in exchange for people trying to solve some of their problems. Okay.
Medicine is a problem for knowledge sharing, right? Because there's money to be made in patents, and it's very, very difficult to get people to even specify their processes in fully replicable ways, my friends tell me.
Yeah. And in that aspect also we
But
have
for things like the federated learning, if you don't share the data, it's even more important than to share at least the knowledge. Otherwise, it's completely black box. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah.
Just, I think to add on, yes, I think, you know, on the medicine side, you have IP. A lot of time, we also end up having discussions with IP on being it on the institutional side, on the you know, pharmaceutical side. So that's a key question at the end of the day. If things should move ahead, it's a lot about, okay, who owns the IP at the end of the day? But I think there's an opportunity also for everybody to use the technology that is there to make sure that we can use the data that is there. So there's and today morning I'm just at the biodata today this 3 days, and it's one of the AI congresses. And one of the speech was like, I mean, when you look at the research, it's probably 5% of the patients, but you have actually 95% of patients who are still there. I think either we just say, oh, they keep the data for themselves and we can't do any research, or how do we leverage the 95%? I would like rather look at how do we leverage the 95% so that we can get do meaningful research, and the technology allows for it.
Yeah, and we can see also some efforts on the academic side trying to reaching out the industry. So the DREAM challenges, for example, where both companies and academics are sharing data. And I think it is another example of how crowd science has contributed to release some of these data sets.
So Hector, I think there's a question from...
Yes, Katina. Thank you very much, Katina. And I agree, and I think that's a great way to close this session. I think we are going to have a break, brief break of 20 minutes. We have to come back at 2:45 Central Europe time. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Maybe just one point, Hector, if I may. It's best that people don't close the session. Just switch your camera off and then come back in 20 minutes.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. See you
Thank you,
later.
everyone. See you.